Welcome back, people, to another Film Friday. And for the month of October, we are getting our horror mode on. And covering a franchise with some ups and downs. But as a set of 4 horror films, it really stands up extremely well for a horror series. As many other horror franchises would take a massive dip in quality, this franchise would remain mostly strong throughout the whole way. And what better place to start than from the beginning? And for those who are yet to see this iconic film and don't wish for any spoilers, well, it's on you, and your own damn fault for watching. So with that said, join us as we dive into the mind of Norman Bates and the grandfather of the slasher genre. This is Psycho. Based off the 1959 novel of the same name, Psycho, was a film that shocked the world for its time. Directed by the master of cinema himself, Alfred Hitchcock. The story, for those who have yet to see it, follows a young beauty named Marion Crane, played by the late Janet Leigh, who also happens to be the mother of another Scream queen herself, Jamie Lee Curtis, who would later go on to face another iconic horror icon herself. As for the story itself, I really shouldn't need to go into details for this film, as it's beyond legendary. The young famous beauty who we all believe to be the main star, only to meet a gruesome demise as one of the most famous deaths in cinema. But we will come back to that later on. When Marion steals $40,000 for herself and boyfriend Sam Loomis, Marion drives into the night and comes across one hotel we all know by now not to stay at, the Bates Motel, where she comes face to face with the nice, kind, young good-looking man Norman Bates, who seems, well, rather odd, but overall a decent kind of man. Norman Bates is played by the totally amazing Anthony Perkins, and he just steals the film, and all but makes it impossible for anyone else to play the part ever again, as Vince Vaughn proved that, as he would fail to capture any of what Anthony Perkins' charm brought to the role. It wasn't until later on with the series Bates Motel that actor Freddie Highmore would fill the role of Norman Bates' shoes with once again grace and character. As for the character of Norman Bates, he lives in a hotel with his invalid mother, who seems to be, well, rather harsh and sometimes just pure cruel to her son. The way she speaks to Norman, we just can't help but have sympathy for the guy, demanding him even to kick out Marion Crane out of their hotel. It's here where one of cinema's most famous scenes takes place, and maybe the most iconic death in cinema would be brought to life as we would all know it. The shower scene. Norman's mum makes her way down to Marion Crane's room as she showers and then stabs her to death with multiple stab wounds. When this scene happened back in 1960, it was considered horrific, and the idea of showing a fully naked woman on screen was degrading. Yet Alfred Hitchcock noted not a single shot of her naked body would be seen, and frame to frame it was filmed perfectly to prove this. The music here by Bernard Herrmann is just pure genius, and it's one of cinema's greatest film scores, and would become horror's first true legendary theme, predating Jaws, The Exorcist, and even Halloween. Marion dead, Norman covers up the murder to protect his mother, even disposing of the $40,000 he had no idea even existed. Dispatching of Marion's body in her own car and dumping her and her belongings in the nearby swamps. Here's where the film truly begins as a murder mystery, as Marion's sister Lila and Marion's former boyfriend Sam would try and track down her whereabouts. Psycho was and is not a normal slasher horror film. It doesn't have the well-known noted horror slasher tropes of naked teens having sex that must die, drug users being slashed apart. Well, not in this film at least. Psycho was way above all of that, diving into a world with a twist that no one would ever see coming. And yeah, by now it's all well known. Norman Bates is the killer. And look, normally I would apologise for spoilers, but the fact you haven't seen this film, well, you just suck. Norman is a twisted young man tormented by his mother, this being before he killed her and her boyfriend at the same time. Guilted by his own actions, his mind kept his mother alive, even fully becoming her and dressing like her at some stages. It's truly an amazing story that shows us a killer who doesn't even know he is a killer. And even in later films, we would create sympathy for this poor man. As said before, Anthony Perkins, well, he just delivers a stunning performance as Norman Bates. As in the books, he is written a little bit more creepy, but the idea of this tall, good-looking young man being this twisted killer was a touch of pure genius. There truly is nothing wrong with the film Psycho. Many would claim the obvious, it's dated, it's black and white. Well, to those who say that, I just say watch the remake. Made almost shot for shot with the same dialogue, the same music, but updated in colour. And you know what? It was a total dumpster fire, because it lacks any of the heart that was put into the making of the original film. If you know the twist but you've yet to see Psycho, well, still I say check it out, especially for it being a masterclass of filmmaking. It is Hitchcock at his peak of directing when it comes to Psycho. Many would make the argument with his other films such as North by Northwest, Rear Window and Vertigo being superior films, and I can't disagree, as all his films had a similar tone but always such a different story. I, for one, personally, I can't go past Psycho. It's a film that had such a lasting, long legacy in cinema, and that's not taking away anything else from Hitchcock's films. Psycho, though, it just had the longest lasting effect on me personally. And yes, people, that was Psycho. A film that was never meant to inspire a franchise, yet somehow, after many, many years, the story would continue in what many would call an extremely underrated sequel, Psycho 2. Join us next week as we slice our way through its strengths and some weaknesses. And if you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like, maybe even a share, and even a subscribe if you enjoyed content such as this. And be sure to join us next week for Psycho 2. This has been Wayne, and you have been watching Film Fridays, only on the OBN Network.